And now, Prime Minister Modi spoke yesterday at the all-party meeting, briefing all heads of parties on what happened in Galwan on June the 15th when the Indian Army lost 20 soldiers, including one officer. And now we're piecing together what happened in Galwan, because I know my viewers all across the country are wondering what happened. Does this make sense? What is the Prime Minister saying? With a series of pictures and a series of inputs from the ground that only India Today has, we piece together what happened. Make your own mind up after you see this.
What you're looking at is the Chinese camp that triggered the June 15th bloodshed in the Galwan Valley. This was what China had agreed to dismantle, but insidiously sought to erect once again on Indian soil. The red line you see is the line of actual control, and the Chinese camp is clearly across the LAC on the Indian side and just 500 meters away from the nearest Indian post. Zooming out even further, the battlefield becomes even clearer. The Chinese camp at Patrol Point 14 in Galwan was a few meters across the line of actual control. But let's zoom back in. Take a close look at this composite image put together by open source intelligence analyst Detresfa using images from Planet Labs and Reuters. The same place where the Chinese tried to intrude and erected a structure. This composite satellite image by Australian analyst Nathan Ruser makes it even clearer. On May the 22nd, as we showed you, the offending Chinese camp is clearly visible and became the subject of talks to disengage by senior commanders. And satellite images on the day after the bloody battle confirms that the Indian team defended Indian territory by destroying that camp, sparking a brutal clash in the process. Briefing all parties on the blood spillage at this particular site, here's what the Prime Minister said yesterday.
न वहां कोई हमारी सीमा में घुस आया है, न ही कोई घुसा हुआ है, न ही हमारी कोई पोस्ट किसी दूसरे के कब्जे में है। जिन्होंने भारत माता की तरफ आंख उठाकर देखा था, उन्हें वो सबक सिखा कर गए।
Today, the Prime Minister sharpened his statement to confirm he was specifically talking about the Indian Army's brave defense of Indian territory, borne out by the images of the Chinese camp debris. With the Prime Minister issuing both a statement as well as a clarification, is India's position in Galwan now clear? Or will the absence of a full sequence of events of the night of June the 15th keep the controversy alive? Bureau Report, India Today.
So a lot of people are wondering why a statement made yesterday needed to be clarified today. Does that show that certain things were misinterpreted to such a degree that the Prime Minister's office felt compelled to put out a sharper, more laser-focused statement? Let's tell you what the Prime Minister said yesterday and what the clarification is today. Yesterday, the main point he made was no Chinese intrusions, and that was taken to mean all across in Ladakh. The clarification today said it pertained to the Galwan incident of June the 15th because that was the topic under discussion at this all-party meeting. The statement, once again, no Chinese intrusions and no camps were under Chinese occupation. The clarification was there was an attempted intrusion like we just showed you in those pictures at Galwan, but the Indian Army fought back, and that was what happened, and that's what sparked the bloodshed that took place. The statement yesterday, all Indian posts are in our control. That's what the Prime Minister said at the all-party meeting yesterday, and the Prime Minister's office clarification today says the Chinese sought to erect a structure across the line of actual control, once again confirmed by those satellite images. So it's very clear, and I'll put those satellite images of the location of the campsite that was destroyed by the Indian Army, which happened to be just about 15 to 20 meters on the Indian side. It definitely was on the Indian side, but right across the line of actual control. I want to welcome onto the show now to discuss this Colonel Rohit Dev, who's a well-known defense expert. Lieutenant General Sanjay Kulkarni is a former Chief of Staff of the 14 Corps, a hero of Siachen, one of the first Indian officers in Siachen. Also with me live is Gaurav Sawant, the first Indian journalist, first journalist in Leh Ladakh after the bloodshed that took place. General Kulkarni, you're the senior most among us, so I'm going to start it off with you, sir. We've got the satellite pictures of what happened in Galwan. In a moment from now, I'm going to talk about Pangong, where the picture is not quite as clear and there are definite encroachments there in Pangong. But before that, in Galwan, what do you make of what the Prime Minister said? They tried to come across, we beat them back, we destroyed their camp and outpost, and that led to the bloodshed.
Shiv, I think the clarification is absolutely clear. First and foremost, it's a patrol point 14. And that patrol point 14 is the start point of the river, of the Galwan River, which comes and joins Shok down below. So having said that, yes, after the 6th of June, when the commanders between the two, the corps commander from our side, Harinder, and also there's Major General Louis, who decided that they would pull back. And it was in that particular arrangement, and subsequently also in the morning, Colonel Babu was present and he knew exactly what the whole system was to be. And therefore, he'd gone to check to see if the Chinese were adhering to the understanding that had taken place, that they would pull back. But there was an observation post which hadn't been vacated. It was still there. It is then that he insisted that it should be removed from there. Since it's part of an agreement, there's nothing that he's asking for more. And therefore, and it was in this melee that that incident occurred, and 20 of our gallant soldiers' lives were sacrificed. Notwithstanding that, not before, again, as I repeat, not before, whatever I've been told, that having taken 35, 43, 60 of their lives of the Chinese, that is not what is relevant. But yes, we lost 20 of our gallant soldiers to ensure that the sovereignty and the integrity of our country is maintained. It is in that context, I think, the Prime Minister probably gave a statement to say that there has been no intrusion. And it's not just the intrusion there, there not a single Indian army post is occupied by the Chinese. Let's be very, very clear. There is nothing, absolutely. And this is a patrol point. It is not a post, it's a point.
Yeah. Absolutely. No, that's very clear, sir. Before I go to Colonel Rohit Dev, I want to bring Gaurav Sawant in because he's in Ladakh. He's got the lay of the land, so to speak. He's been speaking to commanders and troops there on the ground as well. Gaurav, the Galwan Valley has become a very, an absolutely front and center issue because of that horrible battle that took place on June the 15th. But what the Prime Minister says, is it borne out on the ground? The satellite images appear to confirm what the Prime Minister is saying, specifically on the Galwan Petrol Point 14 issue, Gaurav, that the Chinese encroachment was about 15 to 20 meters inside India across the line of actual control. There is no dispute over where the line of actual control is in Galwan. It's a pretty clear line. And when the Indian army tried to beat them back, destroyed that camp, that is what led to the bloodshed. So India was defending its territory there.
Shiv, Galwan is something that we actually should be proud of. The manner in which the Indian army pushed the Chinese back. Let's take this step by step. The Chinese had actually transgressed even further. The Chinese aim was to come to the confluence of Shok and Galwan and to be able to monitor that road or to interdict it at a place and time of their choosing, should they choose to do that. So it was very systematically that India started pushing them back. It took time, but they did. Even when they reached Petrol Point 14 and a little bit behind that, the transgression was still in our territory. That is where, when they were going back, that observation post remained. Colonel Babu personally verified that they had to go back. That's the time that observation post was physically taken down. When that verification process was on, that's the time that he and his team were targeted by the Chinese. And because the Chinese at that point of time were numerically superior, there was an initial setback. More soldiers of the 16th Battalion of the Bihar Regiment went in, and that is where we are told that, supported by a medium artillery regiment troops, they actually, gave the Chinese a befitting response. As the Prime Minister also said, कि उन्होंने दुश्मनों को उन्होंने सबक सिखाया उनको. You transgress our territory, you try and kill a commanding officer, there are consequences for it. And it's only after that that the two commanders have decided that there would be a buffer zone from the LAC, and both sides will move back up to a certain point where they can verify each other's movement back. So that's the condition at Patrol Point 14, and I have it from the highest authority that there are no Chinese on any ridge lines. We dominate the area now.
Okay, we dominate the area completely. I want to keep those images showing you where the line of actual control is, where that camp was, and where the actual flashpoint took place. So it needs to be very clear to our viewers. Colonel Dev, you know, the PMO is of the opinion that there have been many mischievous misinterpretations, you know, according to what happened. And I think everyone has a right to question. We also question, you know, certain statements and the way things are. And as people will see in our Pangong report that's coming up next, not everything is hunky-dory. But here in Galwan, it seems to be borne out, sir, Colonel Dev, that the line of actual control is clear. There was an incursion or an encroachment up to maybe 10-20 meters inside. This was supposed to be disengaged. The Chinese did not follow that. Forget about all the larger politics of China claiming the Galwan Valley, etc. I don't want to get into all the politics. On the ground at the precisely tactical level, this was India throwing out guys who were not supposed to be there.
That's very lucidly explained by you and Gaurav both, and like General Kulkarni brought out. You can't treat this as anything called surrender of territory or the Chinese trying to take our post. It was none of that. It's a sort of a buffer zone or a no man's land. The line is delineated in both the sides, and if one side comes up by 10 to 20 meters, it is not exactly taken to be some kind of a intrusion into your territory. It is a patrolling habit which happens. Now that they have come and pitched a couple of structures there, that is where the Indian side was a little up to the mark. It was not a Kargil in the making. They went to the point. They told them to go back. 6 June, let me tell you, a decision was taken to pull back. And since this post had not pulled back, that 15th incident, the people went with the young officer and others. They tried to tell them to go. It is thereafter when they escalated to a level of this treachery which they did. And I'm quite sure this was planned. Now let me come to the other point. Other point is it was not a normal skirmish and scuffle which happened there. In my understanding militarily, the Chinese wanted to do this. The reasons for that, probably in some other time we will come to know of it as we go across. Now is the time to dissect the military action also at the level of the military first, what happened and what led to it. But this particular incident, the Braves gave it back in full measure. There is no point currently as I speak which is under any Chinese domination in the Galwan Valley. Gaurav has already put that out. I've taken that confirmation from the source.
No, I was very clear about one thing as far as the Galwan incident is concerned, Colonel Dev, which is that there are many unanswered questions, and as General Kulkarni also said, until we get the full sequence of events on the ground, you know, there are certain open-ended questions which will continue to linger in terms of decision making, how far they actually came, did they go any further? All that will come once we get a sequence. So there are questions. It's not an open and shut case by any measure of responsibility. But I also want to say that we were taking what the Prime Minister said and sort of almost checking on the ground with inputs and maps whether that was actually the case. Because what the Prime Minister has said is categorical as far as the June 15th incident is concerned, and that appears to be the case on the ground as far as Patrol Point 14 is concerned. Here's Rahul Kanwal now showing you the lay of the land through maps of the Galwan area. This is the battle.
Hello everyone, this is Rahul Kanwal here. Hope you enjoyed this video. For the latest news and analysis, like and subscribe the India Today YouTube channel, and don't forget to press the bell icon to stay updated.